too hot for WWE, Triple H regrets bringing back past talent, and there will be a special Day 1 edition of Monday Night Raw. All that and more on today's Casual Wrestling Daily.
What is up, people? It is Wednesday, December 14th. We've got a fun show for you guys today. Lots to talk about, lots of news to talk about, some breaking news that we will touch on today. But before we get to that, I want to take a second to talk about the next 2 weeks of holiday content for the Casual Wrestling Daily Show and just the channel in general. So for the next 2 weeks, we'll be on Christmas break here in the United States, which means the kids will be home and I will be on a different work schedule than I typically am. So I kind of sat down last night and drew out a rough sketch of what I think the next 2 weeks are going to look like for this channel. And what I kind of settled on is for the next 2 weeks, that's starting after this Friday, I'm going to go to a reduced Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday schedule. Saturday will be new, but I will record episodes on Tuesday, on Thursday, and on Saturday, and I will just kind of combine the news from the 2 day gaps all into one. That'll still give us a Raw recap, that'll still give us a Dynamite recap, and that'll still give us a SmackDown recap, and then I may sprinkle in, when I have time, some extra content. But for the next 2 weeks, kind of closing out season 2 content here, we'll record it this way so that I'm still able to post and put up content, but the daily grind will have to slow down because going into the holidays, I have some things that I'll have to focus on. Don't forget, though, to check out patreon.com/The Casual Wrestling Show. Hit the follow button if you want to become part of the Casual Wrestling Channel's bloodline. You can do that by becoming a patron for just $5 a month, like our current Patreon producers. It's Zinni, Reedus JC, and the Noobs. Make sure also hit the like button before we get started here. It takes 2 seconds. Click the like, get us into the algorithm, get us going, and help this channel grow to its full potential. So let's talk about some pro wrestling, right? That's what we're here to do. And so there's no wrestling recap. I enjoy Wednesdays. I enjoy being able to just talk to you guys and kind of look back at a week that was. For the last couple of weeks, I like to look into the comment section and see what people are talking about. And this week, I noticed a trend. I noticed a lot of people, when Cody Rhodes gets brought up and the Royal Rumble gets brought up, there's a question that's immediately asked. And it was asked quite a few times this past week, and it is, why does everybody just assume that Cody Rhodes will be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns for at least one of the WWE titles? It's a solid question, right? Because I think it's a pretty well-known assumption right now that I guess it's well accepted by a lot of people that we just all kind of believe that Cody Rhodes is the guy. Even though Cody wasn't around until WrestleMania, we all now have kind of laid into this belief that Cody Rhodes is the guy to do it. And so I see pros and cons when I really break down, is Cody Rhodes the guy to do it? And so I have to speak about this from a casual wrestling fan's perspective. From somebody, I don't get into the X's and O's of like who talent-wise deserves it. I just have to look at this as like commercial viability. And if you're looking at the WWE roster, I don't know who's left, because Roman has kind of run through and I think not on purpose, but it's kind of happened. He's kind of ruined the opportunity for like Drew McIntyre. There's a lot of people who like Sheamus is probably going to get his chance at Royal Rumble and be knocked off. So there's a lot of names that are disqualified the list because Roman's already kind of disqualified them from the conversation. So who's really left? If you start running your finger down that WWE roster, who's really left? And we want to talk about real viable. And when you talk about this, it has to be someone who can win the title and then carry the company forward, because that's what WWE, that has to be the biggest fear in WWE right now, is when we finally pull the trigger on the Bloodline, who can carry the TV ratings? Who can make this still a viable product that people want to pay attention to? Because there's going to be a drop off. The Bloodline have carried WWE for the last year and a half for sure, but possibly, I mean, Roman's been doing it for almost 3 years now. So who is viable? Who has the commercial viability? And I think you talk about Bray Wyatt. Possibly. Now they've tried the Bray Wyatt experiment before, and I don't know that commercially throughout the entire spectrum of IWC and casual wrestling fans, because it has to be somebody who can bring all this together. Even if it's because you are a little bit divisive, you have to bring all these people together. And I don't know, does Bray Wyatt do that? Does he tick all of those boxes? Does the new Bray Wyatt do it? Or is this new Bray Wyatt so convoluted and so stuck inside of his own storyline that honestly, I think the title doesn't mean anything to Bray Wyatt's character, so why throw the title on him? It'll probably just derail what Bray Wyatt has going on outside of this. So secondly, we talk about The Rock, right? The Rock is a possibility to dethrone Roman Reigns, but how does that make any fucking sense? There's not a story I can, unless The Rock is committing to 6 months of wrestling post WrestleMania, there's zero way that makes sense that The Rock beats Roman Reigns for the WWE title, undisputed, one or the other, whichever way they spin it. It doesn't make sense. You don't have a guy who's not going to be there full time come in and take the belt from a guy who hasn't been there full time. That will send a horrible message to your fans, and that will send a horrible message to your locker room. So then you got to move down this list to actual viable people within the company who still have enough believability to work. And I think one is Seth Rollins. If we remember, Seth Rollins had a few matches earlier this year with Roman Reigns, and he still seems like a viable candidate to take the belt off of Roman Reigns. He's extremely over with the fans, so there's not a problem there. And he can be a guy who could immediately roll into, if Seth won the title, he could immediately roll that into something with Cody Rhodes. And I think you have built-in story for the rest of the year. So I think Seth Rollins is still a very viable option. I just don't know if he's headed on a collision course with Roman Reigns at this point in time. So then we talk about Kevin Owens. This is my preferred choice as the person to take down Roman Reigns, but commercially, I don't just do we really believe as an audience and as casual fans, as the casual wrestling community, do we believe that Kevin Owens can carry the company? Now, he can carry attention. That's very different. He can carry the attention of current wrestling fans, people who watch the product. IWC and casual fans, for the most part, we understand the specialness that is Kevin Owens. But how much does Kevin Owens appeal to that outside fringe audience who, WWE, it's a constant rotation of people leaving their fandom and people coming in as new fans. And is Kevin Owens a long-term viable product that you can put in front of new fans and go, this is our champion, you got to get behind this guy? Short term, I think definitely yes. I think Kevin Owens is a guy who should always be around the title picture, but I don't know that the best solution is to go from Roman Reigns, who is extremely commercially viable, to someone like Kevin Owens, who, while has some commercial viability, is much more IWC friendly. So I don't know if it's Kevin Owens. And then lastly, we go Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn works on so many levels. The crowd loves him. He's international. He's funny. But is he long term? How long can we buy? Like, outside of the bloodline stuff, can Sami create this magic month after month after month after month with different opponents? Can he continue to build that magic? I wish they would give him the opportunity to try, but I don't think WWE's in the business, especially after Roman Reigns, of going, let's test this out and see if this works. I don't think that WWE has the balls to pull the trigger and let Sami Zayn run with the belt, even though it would be a hell of an experiment. So where does this lead us? This leads us full circle back to Cody Rhodes. When you talk about commercial viability, he is somebody, he's made a name for himself on the indies, he's made a name for himself in AEW, and he's made a name for himself in WWE. WWE fans still recognize him. AEW fans still know who he is. IWC know who he is. When he came back to WWE, he did an awesome job of selling us on this idea that he is a different Cody. He's not AEW Cody. So he came back, he sold us on this championship aspiration. There's an emotional connection. And we've talked, the theme of this last week has been WWE lacking emotion. It's not lacked with Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes came out to the ring and cried. He gave us a reason to invest into who he is. And that is the most important reason that I believe Cody Rhodes should be the person to defeat Roman Reigns, because you get twofold off of that. You're going to get the emotional outpouring of us knowing that we're finally done with the bloodline. Whether that makes you happy, whether that makes you sad, we're going to know that is the finality to that. The bloodline will never have this epic of a run ever again. They may get titles, they may be involved in title pictures, but we will never, for the foreseeable future, see a faction dominate for this long ever again. So we're coming to the end of an era there. But twofold, we'll also get to see Cody Rhodes and begin his epic journey of something he said he's always wanted to do for his dad. So there's two emotional attachments there that make for an amazing storytelling opportunity. But here's the problem for WWE. This is a problem. WWE, Triple H, Vince McMahon, they've talked about it. They tried it, I think, with Austin Theory, but they have not built the next John Cena. They have not built the next Hulk Hogan. That person is not in line and waiting right now. So we have a slight bit of a problem. Once Roman drops this title, it's a free-for-all. You talk about grabbing the brass ring. Somebody is going to have to step up and be the next big babyface. Roman couldn't do it. They tried to do it with Roman Reigns, and they quickly figured out Roman works as a heel. And he's been an epic heel. He's been amazing. He's been a great heel champion. And heel champions, for some reason, to me, they appeal more. When you have a baby face, they have to be so over with the crowd. They have to be Hulk Hogan. They have to be John Cena in order for them to for the next 3 years, be in that title picture. And WWE right now, the closest thing I think they have to that epic kind of babyface is Cody Rhodes. And so can they mold him into that? That'll be the question. Can they convince the little kids that the American Nightmare is a big deal? I think so. I think he's got commercial viability with kids. Can they convince the grandmas and the grandpas? Is he lovable? I think so. I think Cody is all of that. Can they convince the casual wrestling fans? I think so. Cody has all the look. Last picture I saw, he's jacked as fuck. He looks good. So I think, to me, that is my answer. I think Cody Rhodes is the guy. While I want Kevin Owens, while I'd love to see Sami Zayn, while I think Seth Rollins is completely viable, I think that when you just look at it from a marketing and a commercial viability standpoint, it's got to be Cody Rhodes. And I think that, it's going to be a little bit of a gamble, but I think it's a gamble that ultimately will probably pay off, because Roman can't be champion forever. Although I think WWE at this point is kind of sunk their feet in on, well, what if we just leave the belt on him? He can't be champion forever. And so we're going to have to see who steps up and takes that next big babyface jump. Now, speaking of babyfaces, I want to talk about Seth Rollins for a little bit. The Seth Rollins experiment has been an interesting one, and I've talked about it for the last couple of weeks, and some people have argued it with me, but there was definitely a shift over the last 6 weeks to make Seth Rollins a babyface. Once the crowd really started singing his theme song and got behind him, there was a push internally in WWE to make Seth Rollins a babyface, especially, I think, as he got involved with Austin Theory, and they wanted to make Austin Theory more of a heel and a dark character. They had to, just by necessity, push Seth Rollins over to the babyface category, and it's been a failed experiment. It has not worked. So I'm calling for this right now. Seth Rollins has to become heel again. I don't care what that does to Austin Theory. I don't care what it does to Bobby Lashley. I don't care who it hurts, who it affects. Right now, your biggest product on Monday Night Raw is Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins, the visionary, only works as a heel. It's stupid as a babyface. He looks dumb. He looks like an idiot, dressed up in all these costumes and in the weird like dancing and stuff like that. That works as like a Joker / Riddler villain. It doesn't work as a babyface superhero. It just doesn't work. And if the plan, ultimately, I think WWE's plan all along has been to go back to Cody versus Seth, part 4. I think that's what we're getting at WrestleMania, guys. I really do. I don't think we're getting Cody Roman. I think we're going to get Cody versus Seth 4. And so Seth has to be the heel because Cody has to be the babyface. Now, I'm going to tell you, do I like this plan? I hate this plan. This is where I talk, like when you guys come at me about Triple H's booking, this is what I point to. This is what doesn't make sense to me. These are the things where I go, Triple H is booking these people into horrible positions. This is lose-lose for both of these guys. Here is what happens if we actually get Cody versus Seth 4. Either Seth Rollins eats a 4th loss to Rhodes and just becomes someone who just couldn't get over the hill with Cody Rhodes, or Cody Rhodes loses and you immediately squash all of the momentum that he built up upon his return to WWE. Doesn't make sense. There is nothing for either of these guys. Will they put on a hell of a wrestling match? Sure, we'll get a hell of a wrestling match. But one of them's going to lose momentum, and that's just, I don't think that works. When Monday Night Raw needs superstars, you don't want 2 of them beating each other down. Why, and this has been a characteristic of WWE for a while, why do they panic when these heels get over with the crowd? Why do they panic when Becky Lynch got over as a heel? Why do they panic when Seth Rollins gets over as a heel? Just because they're getting positive reactions, their positive reaction is to the fact that there are a certain amount of fans who like heels. They root for the bad guy. And so if you overreact and because everybody's singing the song, you turn him into a babyface and you go, well, the crowd did it. No, the crowd didn't do it. I don't think that your babyface or heel persona should be based on the way the crowd reacts to you. It should only be based on the way that you react inside of the ring. So if you like to do nefarious things and be kind of evil, then you're a heel. And if the crowd likes that, even better. That's awesome. We're cheering a heel. It's the same with Roman Reigns, right? There's a certain amount of the crowd that likes Roman Reigns and they give him positive reactions. So I don't understand. And so if it's that they're trying to build Austin Theory into a credible heel, that's great. Then get Seth Rollins out of that storyline. There's a guy named Mustafa Ali who could do a perfectly good job of helping Austin Theory get over as a bad guy. But I just don't think, I don't love it. Seth Rollins needs to be a heel. That's his natural position. Or he needs a character change. That hasn't been talked about enough. Maybe it's time for the visionary to be over. Maybe it's time we went from the architect to the visionary. Maybe it's time Seth reinvents himself in a babyface way and moves on to a new chapter in his career. I don't think Seth's ready for that. I think the best option here is just Seth Rollins needs to become heel again. Another thing I want to talk about on today's podcast that I kind of promised I wanted to talk about yesterday, and that is I want to talk a little bit more about Vince McMahon. So we got the rumor, we got the story that Vince is trying to position himself back into the company, right? We got the story that there's 2 new allegations against Vince McMahon. And I posted that video and I was flooded with misconceptions about what I don't think people understand about Vince McMahon and his position in WWE right now. There's a huge misconception. I got a lot of these comments that were, Vince doesn't own the company. Triple H and Stephanie own the company. Hold on. That's wrong. That's a misconception. Vince McMahon is the major shareholder of the WWE. He holds about 80% of the voting power within WWE. While he is not currently in a position of power, he still owns the company. It's a weird divide. I don't fully understand how it works. I don't understand how he's not calling the shots from behind the scenes already. But don't be fooled into thinking that when Vince McMahon stepped down from WWE, that he somehow relinquished his business power within the company. He still owns it. Ultimately, if Vince McMahon wanted to, now there's legal ramifications. There's a lot of sticky situations here, but he could coerce this board into voting the way he wants because he ultimately has the power to disrupt the company, right? Vince McMahon could just start, going off the deep end, saying some crazy shit, and he can tank stocks. he can tank the value of the company. So the board, while they might have put out, a strong arm when all this first stuff came out and they were like, we're going to force you out if you don't retire, Vince knows in the back of his mind that he always has a way back in. That he ultimately is the domino, that the way he goes, the company goes, and he can disrupt share prices, and he can do all this. So ultimately, Vince knows there's a way back in. You guys don't get it twisted. If Vince McMahon wants to come back to WWE, Vince McMahon's walking in the door and running WWE. Whether it's from the shadows or whether it's sitting in a big cushy office chair, Vince is going to do what Vince wants to do. He owns the company. That's just reality of business. That's just how business works. Now, are there reports from all these WWE insiders that say most people within WWE dread his return? I'm sure. I'm sure there's a ton of people who don't want Vince McMahon back. Since Vince has left, you can see there seems to be a higher morale in the locker room. The stock values have gone up. I think that people are more engaged in the WWE product than they've ever been in a long time. So do I think there's negatives? Of course. I think I am so far to the side of Vince. Stay home. Stay home. Don't come back. Go do something else. Go help The Rock with the XFL. Find something to do, not WWE. But I'm not under this misconception that if Vince wants to walk back in the door, Vince walks back in the door. It's as simple as that. If Vince McMahon wants back, you can talk about the shareholders and the board of directors. It doesn't matter, you guys. If Vince McMahon, first off, if he wants to tank the company, it's super easy. He goes out and just starts talking. If Vince McMahon just starts talking to the media, he can tank the company. He could disrupt everything. So this misconception, I had numerous people tell me that I was wrong, that Vince can't just walk back in the door. He can. Ultimately, he can. Let's talk about some current events today here. We've got the biggest one. This is what everybody's talking about. Everybody's over fucking reacting to the fact that Mandy Rose was released by the WWE today. Oh my God, Mandy Rose released by WWE. Oh, it's such a problem. Such an epic NXT wrestler. Guys, come on, man. Let's be honest. Let's be real with ourselves. Mandy Rose was overrated. Mandy Rose is not a great wrestler. Mandy Rose is not a great talker on the microphone. What is Mandy Rose? She's attractive. And that's what WWE banked on when they were banking on it. And they dug their own grave with Mandy Rose because they pushed her in a group called Toxic Attraction. And they pushed her based on her sexuality. And they pushed her until she decided, I can make more fucking money selling pictures of my body than I can being on NXT week in and week out. That's as simple as what this is. There's not a big underlying theme here. This is ultimately Mandy Rose was given a choice by WWE. You either take that website content down or you stop wrestling. And she goes, all right, cool. I'm out of here. I'm making main roster money on my website, and I'm making NXT money to get my body beat up on a weekly basis. I'm sorry. I'm going to go I talked about this. I gave like six weeks ago, we did a story about this on this show where we talked about Mandy Rose is out here rating dudes dinger dongers. Like, that's not, you knew WWE wasn't going to last with WWE. It was just a matter of time before this got back to somebody who was like, she's doing what? What? She's what? She got what? No. She's got to go. But what was the next career step for Mandy Rose anyway? Like, there was not a place for Mandy on the main roster. She would be exposed extremely quickly if she's put into the ring with the upper echelon of talent. So she's not going from NXT to the main roster and just killing it. Now, while I'm sure they'll have her back, but Mandy Rose was... She was there because they continued. WWE promoted pictures of her in like swimsuits and things like. They used her sexuality. It was just that Mandy Rose figured out she could make money on her sexuality. That's what it is. Mandy Rose is not interested in stopping her most lucrative business opportunity, and WWE said, "All right, you've got to go." Like that. This isn't hard. There's people out here fucking writing petitions. What are you guys doing? Mandy Rose is not surprised by this. Like, there's articles and reports already that Mandy Rose knew this was kind of coming, that Mandy Rose knew if she continued to put out this kind of content, that eventually there was going to be friction. Now, did she know she was going to wake up and be released? Probably not. She probably thought that there was going to be conversations, but I imagine the conversation was simple. I imagine someone from WWE picked up the phone and said, hey, Mandy, you either take down that website or you're going to have to walk away from the company. And I think she said, well, dollars, and I can look at the dollars right here. And I go, I'm just going to do this. And I imagine from WWE's standpoint, the minute she takes the site down, she's probably welcome to come back. But ultimately, from like WWE's point of view, Toxic Attraction, they're fine without Mandy Rose. As a tag team, they'll probably move up to the main roster and they'll be completely fine. Trios in WWE don't fucking mean anything. There's no trio tag belts. She was a third wheel to Toxic Attraction. If they moved up to the main roster, they weren't going to run the division the way they ran NXT. It wasn't going to happen. So, I mean, this is an overreaction. I see everybody overreacting and everybody talking about, look, WWE has policies and they have standards. And whether you agree with them or not, this is what they have. This is what they believe. And yeah, they can bend the rules for certain people, but they weren't willing to bend the rules here. And so you get what you get. Mandy Rose made probably the smarter decision. And probably did the smarter thing. Mandy Rose milked this as long as she could, got all of the notoriety from being a professional wrestler, and now she's able to parlay that, and she'll be fine. She'll be fine. WWE will be fine. This is an overreaction to just because she was champion for so long. Whatever. I don't care about the story as much as I care about the fucking, like, this is why I hate TikTok. And I'm so over TikTok. I don't know if anybody's noticed. I don't post on TikTok anymore. It's a fucking, it's a clusterfuck of just idiots talking is what it is. So I don't deal with TikTok much anymore, but I do get on there from time to time just to scroll through when I'm wasting time. And I hear all these people react to this shit. And I'm just like, Jesus, you fucking, like, 2022 motherfuckers, you, just whatever. I'm not going to go too deep in it. I'm not going to get myself fucking canceled over this shit. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about AEW secures the rights to the Round Ball Rock, the NBA on NBC theme song. This is for anybody that's in the 30s who was a sports fan, a basketball fan. This was the song that NBC used to play during the NBA Finals. Tony Khan bought the rights to it for AEW. This is the shit that happens when you just have too much money. Tony Khan just has so much money. He's got a war chest of money and he can do anything he wants. And this is obviously probably going to be, I'm guaranteeing you tonight on Dynamite, this is the new theme song for the Elite. And it's perfect. It's so gaudy, and so it'll be great. It'll be awesome. I'm all for it. I'm not mad at this. I'm just saying this is what happens when you can buy anything from your childhood that's nostalgic and then just reuse it in something that you own. With Tony Khan, like, the funny thing about Tony Khan, and one of the reasons I'm critical of Tony Khan is because just because you can afford to start a business doesn't mean that you should. It doesn't mean that you need to. And Tony Khan runs AEW like my daughters play The Sims. He has cheat codes. It's easy to run a business when you have all the money in the world. It's really hard to fail when every time things look a little, doom and gloom, you can just go hire another wrestler. You can just go buy another shiny toy to put in front of people and go, no, we're still a big deal. I can pay CM Punk. I can pay William Regal. I can pay Daniel Bryanson. I can pay all these people, Claudio. I can pay them all. Just keep watching because I'm going to bring someone new every week. AEW is a cheat code of a company. That's why I say people are like, oh, they're a brand new company. They're not a brand new company. You can't judge them based on like a startup company. Tony Khan has a box of money that he can just every time it starts to look gloomy, he just reaches over and grabs another wad of money and goes, well, who can I pay? Oh, Sasha Banks, here, take all this money. Who can I pay? Paige, take all this money. That's what he does. That's why I get irritated by the IWC when they tell me AEW is a new company. What's next here? Triple H is underwhelmed by some of the recent WWE returns. This report doesn't even make sense to me. This is Triple H being underwhelmed by Triple H. What are the new Emma, Hit Row, Braun Strowman, Valhalla, Damage Control, Candice LeRae, Johnny Gargano, Dexter Lumis? Nothing wrong with anybody on that list except where are the compelling storylines for these characters? What's Emma doing right now? She came back, got beat by Ronda Rousey. You fed her to Ronda Rousey. Then you immediately put her in this weird, awkward backstage segment with Madcap Moss that's gone nowhere. You give them 10 seconds of SmackDown. What the fuck are you expecting them to do in 10 seconds? How are they going to get over with the crowd? Hit Row. Hit Row has been the most disrespectful booking in the last 5 years. You had them come out, start out hot, put on a weird rap concert that nobody knew how to respond to. Then you had them fight with the Maximum Male models who have disappeared. You had them fucking around with Escobar, and now they're what? Now they're in some weird thing with the Vikings and Legaz Phantasma. All these, I don't like. That's bad booking. Where's the emotional attachment to this? How about Braun Strowman? You bring him back and you throw him in the ring with Omos, and you do giant versus giant, and you give it 2 weeks build, and you wonder why nobody's paying attention. And you have Valhalla, right? You have Valhalla, who you bring out, who's an interesting character, and she's done absolutely nothing except escort the Vikings to the ring. Damage Control. You could have had them win that tag team championship tournament initially and just be dominant, but instead you have fed them to Bianca Belair and her cronies, and you've created no emotional attachment, no investment. Why do we care? Candice LeRae, same thing. Johnny Gargano, you put him into comedy storylines. Dexter Lumis, while that came in hot with The Miz, it turned into the dumbest thing currently on WWE television. This report, if there's any truth to it, which I don't know, I just read these news articles and then comment on them. But if there's any truth to Triple H being underwhelmed by some of these recent returns, he's underwhelmed with them. This is what I've been telling you guys about Triple H. You guys, where do y'all get the Kool-Aid? Where do y'all buy the Triple H Kool-Aid that you drink and you tell yourselves Triple H has changed WWE emphatically? Like, someone explain to me these choices, because if he is actually underwhelmed with the choices that he has made, it's his fault. It's none of these. Look at this list: Emma, Hit Row, Braun Strowman, Valhalla, Damage Control, Candice LeRae, Johnny Gargano, Dexter Lumis. It's not their fault. It's not their fault that they're underutilized, that they're not given storylines that they can work with. How about when you have 3 hours of Monday Night Raw, you actually forward some storylines instead of just random, like Monday Night Raw has turned into mid-card magic is what it should be called, right? It's the AEW special. It makes no sense. There's no storylines. There's no through line. And when there is a storyline, it's complete garbage, like The Miz and Dexter Lumis. Like, somebody, like, where are y'all buying that Kool-Aid to drink that tells you Triple H is doing such a good job? Because I haven't tasted it. I think he's done some good things. I think that the morale of the company and the wrestlers seem to be happier, and there are good things happening, but I'm not seeing it in the booking. I don't think the storylines and the creative is so much better now that Triple H has taken over. In fact, I would venture to say at this point in time, right now, Triple H has booked himself into some problems that at this same time last year, the storylines were better. I'm willing to say that under Vince McMahon. So y'all just like help me out here. If this is true, which I don't know, says report, it's a news article that came out today. But if this is true, this is complete bullshit. What is Triple H? This article should say Triple H is underwhelmed by Triple H decisions. Because none of these people are to blame. You don't give them an opportunity to get over with the crowd. Last news story today is apparently there's rumors that there's going to be a day one edition of Monday Night Raw. So we got rid of the day one pay-per-view, which I'm fine with, premium live event, and we've just converted it over to a day one edition of Monday Night Raw. So basically, We don't have to build these special sets. We don't have to do a special Sunday show. We don't have to include different travel. We'll just do everything we were planning to do on Monday. And that is, to me, this is now an overreaction to, hey, man, we have 9 weeks and we're not doing shit. We've got to start building towards something. And that'll give them the opportunity to pre-Royal Rumble build towards Bliss and Belair, Rollins and Theory. Possibly, like, if the rumors are true and The Rock is scheduled to come back at Royal Rumble, I think you got to get Cody Rhodes back before the Rumble. You don't want Cody showing up as a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble and losing. That is the biggest mistake that Triple H could make. So if Cody Rhodes isn't scheduled to win the Royal Rumble, I don't even know that I want him in the Royal Rumble at all. I mean, that's real. That just hit me now. That wasn't even in my notes. But if Cody Rhodes is not scheduled to win the Royal Rumble, I don't want him in the Royal Rumble. I want him to come back pre-Royal Rumble and have something that's occupying his time so that we are not all disappointed. Worst case scenario is that The Rock comes back and wins the Royal Rumble and fans turn on The Rock and they are upset and they're pissed off that Cody didn't win. That's worst case scenario for Triple H. I don't know that that's a possibility because I think The Rock has such a star power that people won't turn on The Rock, but fuck, I've seen crazier things. But that's all I've got for you guys today. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Make sure to hit the like button on this video. It takes you 2 seconds to help the channel grow tremendously. As always, I am the Notorious Nerdy D, and I will talk with you guys tomorrow.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Hey, casual wrestling community show. You already know, talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Don't be sure that you gon' find. Tune in cause it's online. Hit 'em with a figure 4 leg lock, power driver, or clothesline. We bringing that heat like the show, but you should